And now it's time for the Megami Tensei spin-off. If Shin Megami Tensei doesn't count as a spin-off, tottikel the real story Megami Tensei. Revelations Setemusvaire, or as known in Japanese, Megami Tensei Gaiden Last Bible. Which isn't just the first spin-off game, but the first spin-off series, of course. Called the same as game is called in Japan, Megami Tensei Gaiden Last Bible. However, I wasn't really into it, but I finished it. As in the wedding, the final boss and the credits. I can't put my fingers on why I wasn't really into it. Maybe the game is at fault. Maybe it was me at fault. Like maybe I'm starting to get turn-based RPG burnout or something else. But of course some problems from Megami Tensei game stayed in this game. Like not explaining what stuff does, but amplified more, I think. And more problems added. But more about it later in the video, in the gameplay chapter. This game was developed and published by Alice. But no, that's wrong. It was developed by Access and multimedia intelligence transfer. And of course published by Alice. Well, also published by Index for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Gear, and Nintendo 3DS. Only the Game Boy Color version was translated to English, but released only in the USA, other than Japan. Because Game Boy Color, well, all Game Boy consoles aren't regional locked, then if you can get the game, then you can play it no matter where you are. And of course, this game is for an experience. The story is set long before humans existed, where gods only called harness power, which they called it Gaia. Under elfinish Gaia training, something happens and he found out demons, or as this game called them, monsters, demon orbs. Because they don't want to give orders to monsters, then L is tasked to investigate ways they found it while also dealing with monsters, while also recruiting monsters to L's party. Yeah, the story is just in game to be an excuse to a turn-based RPG gameplay. Of course, it isn't bad story, but it also isn't a good story. Well, maybe it is an okay story. Or okay story. And what is later? It is foreseeable. Well, at least can't, but that is because it also makes me think that it's just a red herring. Like, making it as plot twist? No, that doesn't work. Like, leading to one thing, but it just fault on resource. I fault think. Like, it turned out to be an interactive fault and resolved like that, but it resolved like that. Like, resolved as I foresaw it. And Rocky just read, I think it faulted me, making me think like that, but fault to something else, but no. It did what was foreseeable. I also suggested its name because it is a canon name of the character, which is as a default name in game. So a spin-off game introduced even canon names set as a default in game. Or maybe not, because I played the OSA version, which was released way later than the Japanese version. And I don't know if the Japanese version introduced it or not. If you played the Japanese version, let me know in the comments if it is set default names or not. And yeah, orbs aren't items in the inventory, but needed for the story to exist. Now, exploration is just over 8 or whatever this is called exploration. So there isn't first-person exploration mode. But with that, if you want to interact with stuff that opens a dialog box, then you need to press a button to interact with that. So the dialog box doesn't appear automatically, which will stop your moment. If you want to interact with a dialog box, then on something that opens the dialog box, then you need to choose to do it. Of course, the combat is turn-based combat, where only after selecting all actions, everyone starts battling for the turn. And for which there is of course auto mode, which does basic attacks. However, for the last party member, there isn't confirmations if you choose the actions that you want for all party members. Because an using auto mode, it just says partly continuous or something like that. It can't be known if auto mode also oscillates the selected actions or not. By the way, it turns out you could cancel auto mode at least in Shin Megami Tensei, which also is true in this game, and it's by holding the B button, and in Shin Megami Tensei, whatever it is equal to it. However, not just item and spell description is missing, like they were in Megami Tensei games. They weren't. But now also MP list is missing for spells. Not only do you need to quest or trail an arrow each test, but you also need to quest or trail an arrow. How much each spell cost? Well, because it is officially translated to English, then for some stuff it is easier to guess, but what it does. But for other stuff you still need to guess, which also applies to guessing when you can use it. So you won't want to order items that you can't use in quest when you want to use them, but oh no, there is an inventory limit. Very limited inventory, but every element like shelter has their own inventory, but still limited. One of the reasons is that equipment takes a slot in their inventory. So then of course you can place items in the bag. For which there is also a limit. So when you stumble on items that you don't know what it does and when you can use it and want it to keep inventory clear, but also bank is full, then you need to drop the item. Of course the bank is also used for depositing money. It's because if you lose, it isn't game over, but getting sent to the latest was it in. But also losing at least money, if not also items. Well, some money. So banks can be used to save money. However, under 1,000 can be saved. Well, if there would be a game over screen, then it wouldn't be too large, or it won't be any large, because the game was released on Intel consoles, then you can save the game everywhere. Now, returning on the track. Of course you can recreate monsters, which is just answering the right answers to the questions. Also, it's the same with and creating, well, from previous games. If you use the same species in the party, they live, but no caves this time. However, that's not all. You can make other active party members talk to those monsters, and they talk with monsters on their own, and it's random if monsters will join or not, which might be impacted by brainstat, whatever it was called, in the last slide. And lastly, monsters can start talking with you. However, there isn't info if the monster can be recruited or not, which means you can also talk with boss enemies. But I doubt they can train you. But if recruiting fails, if you start to talk, then monsters attack first. If monsters started to talk with you, then you can attack first, or at least select commands or actions. And in this case, more than one species can appear in the random encounter. But if you recruit one species or talk with the same species as in your party, then the other species leave. Sometimes the game doesn't give you an option to answer. And of course, to encounter monsters, it is by random encounters. This time, random encounters don't always, but still the encounter rate can get annoying. And of course, only like Jared can level up, and with that chose where to spend the skill points. However, this time the game doesn't give you skill points as a start of the game. If you want to have a more powerful monster, of course, is by doing Forcing, which is now a spell, so you can force monsters everywhere, but which of course costs MP. But with that, you can force only 2 monsters at a time. Some monsters can be used for forcing, and some monsters theoretically can force into themselves. Theoretically, because the game says you already out that monster. Also, mutations can happen, forcing into a different monster than what previous show. For me, that happened only once, and one of those demons who can't force together with other demons is mutations demons. Or at least I didn't get any other demons can be forcing together with demons from mutation of monster. But the limit isn't your current level, so you can recruit or force monsters that have a higher level than your melee character. There aren't month phases, or monsters aren't affected by month phases. So then you can have monsters as active members all of the time, because Magnetic is also used for something else, for trading with monsters. Then that also makes you able to have monsters as active party members all the time. So at first I tried Magnetic first scan, but it is an item for trading, which takes a slot in the inventory. Here and there were difficulty specs, for which I tried to get more powerful monsters, either by recruiting them or forcing them together. Then there are instant game spells, which I wouldn't mind a lot, but this game doesn't allow you to revive party members while in battle. Sure, reviving demons in battle is pointless because you can't summon them in battle, but why this arbitrary limit for armor-like characters? That is just an artificial difficulty. So near the end of the game, if my party members stay ill in fight, either by chaos spell or otherwise, then because I was able to save the game everywhere, I just reset the game either to try against the fight or grind for it. And because not being able to revive in the battle, I almost dropped the game, or also cheats. But I was too lazy to enter all cheats for every character separately. I spoiled the ending original by watching the ending from a video. After I found a video about the final boss battle, I noticed the battle was short, and after reading one comment, I closed the video. But that isn't the only annoying part in this game. It randomly stops giving your directions, or gives very vague directions. These might be spoilers, but I might say it, I think it won't spoil much. I needed to also again to find a specific tree in an already visited place, which leads you to a different tree. Something about talking with plants again was given, like what's it that fake direction? Sure, there are dialogue from characters about talking with plants earlier in the game, but as the time trying to do that, of course, nothing happened. Sure, it's a problem if the game allows your end to lead where you need to progress the game, but it is also a problem when there are no or fake direction given. So for better experience, giving players direction should be somewhere on a scale between those extremes. And because I already used a key to be able to find a tree, then of course I used a key to enter into one specific location. But for me, there may be is direction given, but then you need to remember that for where you can, or backtrack where that direction is given. For me, the character felt toward than when they needed to be. Maybe that was my fault, or I play the game emulation. Or maybe it wasn't my fault, because after I recorded the base camera and voiceover, then I watched other review videos of this game, and turns out those reviews also had the same problem. So it wasn't my fault, it was game's fault. So the buffing stats in Bala can be done only once. Other parts train to the same spell no matter how powerful it is. The buffs can be stuck. There is limited, if any, suggestive content. Maybe it's hard to notice because of the Game Boy Color screen. Also, at first it was released for the Game Boy, so probably it will be hard to notice. And probably the game was targeted to a younger audience. Also, there are less female monsters. So it also makes it hard to see if there is or isn't suggestive content. Well, by limiting female monsters, then it can't make that there is less suggestive content. Or maybe I play the essay version which reduces suggestive content. Let me know in the comments if the job. Let me know in the comments if the Japanese release is suggestive content or not. Or how much it limited the suggestive content. How much limited was those suggestive content. Probably this was the case at least in some previous Megami Tensei, but if monster is in late, then there is an overfull sprite for the monster. Only the same sprite for all monsters. The animal sprites look like bird sprites. If character levels up multiple times under a single battle, then level up screen appears for each level up. After the final boss and credits you can save the game, which implies there is a post game. But from what I checked at the time of writing the script, there isn't a post game, other than creating and recreating and forcing monsters together. There is versus mode, which was linkable of course, which of course I wasn't able to check out, because I found out somebody to play against and I even couldn't find video a single video of it no matter what keywords I used. Yeah, it is an okay-ish game, which can work as an out game, taking it on the go. Of course, which was the intended way to play it. There aren't any experience and only lows or difficulty spikes and fake directions given. So I can only say try it on your own and if possible play on the go on an handheld device. As for Megami Tensei fans, maybe it can skip. Maybe check it out at least a little bit. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, like the video, subscribe and comment. See you next time.